Right, we're going to move on now to
Okay.
survival information.
This is another Laura Vere's workshop one. There's 3 on this record.
Dictate my life and my mind.
Getting a lot of free promo here.
Well, I got a lot out of that workshop. 3 whole songs for my record. I was delighted. So I really felt like I was stuck in a rut after that Obey Robots album. So
Right.
Creatively.
Well, this one to me feels like a companion piece to Emotional Tourist. Would that be a fair assessment, or is that me going off on a tangent?
No, I think it's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. They're both talking about difficult situations that you've had to kind of
Yeah.
break out of a pattern of.
And they're about the same person.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
I did wonder.
Yeah.
I did wonder. So,
Yeah.
it's, being in a toxic relationship, and you fall into patterns in toxic relationship. In any relationship you fall into patterns, but of course in a toxic relationship, it's a pattern you really need to break out of. But because it's a pattern, it's hard.
Yeah. The phrase survival information is something I've wanted to use for ages. I listened to this storytelling podcast called You Are a Storyteller, which is brilliant. And they were talking on there about how survival information is how people used to describe stories, or survival information is stories. So when, thousands of years ago, if someone went off travelling to go and kill some bison, or this is so random what I'm saying, but if they went off to get food and come back, they would come back with survival information in the form of stories that they would tell people. This happened to me, and it's literally, don't go over there because you're going to get killed by the thing. It's survival information. So because this is called House of Stories, and because it's all about stories and my story and telling my story and how, all of our stories are valid and things like that, survival information was important.
Well, that's so interesting because I didn't know that. But actually, with my notes when I was listening to this, I wrote down music as healing, a way to process and break out of old patterns. With our stories, we make sense of the world and also find connection with others.
Exactly.
And that's what this song is
beautiful,
doing.
Beautifully put. Yeah, an Emotional Tourist was about a literal thing that happened where someone tried to essentially end my life with a fire in the house we lived in together. And I suppose the survival information is me telling that story, not only to remind myself, don't ignore your gut feelings about someone, like protect yourself and all those things I need to know, but also sharing that story so that people who are in that situation or who have been in that situation don't feel so alone. So that thing about stories is connection is definitely important.
Yeah. Something that struck me when you were talking about Emotional Tourist, not today, but in the past when you've written about it, and saying about how when you're in that kind of situation and there's something in you that's like, well, I know I need to get, when you realise you need to get out of it, but you're scared to get out now, and you're kind of telling yourself stories that are bad stories, basically. You're telling yourself, I need to wait because in 2 months' time it will be safer, or like this month we've got to do this thing, and if I mess that up, it's going to make things really bad, and you kind of. So it's almost like these are the corrective stories, aren't they? They're like, if you're ever in a situation where you're finding yourself thinking, I know in my gut this is bad and I need to get out, but maybe I need to get out next month. Maybe that'd be better. No, get out now.
There's a great phrase that Mark Manson has made popular. If it's not a fuck yes, it's a no. And that is something that ever since I read that in around 2014, I've lived by that for the most part, and it's served me very well.